Hey traders, Raghee here, and in this recap video I'm going to address a number of questions we had on today's clearing. And what a great clearing it was. We did this live in the chat room, and this is one of my bread and butter morning setups. But what I want to talk about here in this video is the segmentation of sort of treating the day in different chunks. And I think this is going to be, it may not be something that a lot of traders think about, but is absolutely strategic. And that means that, you know, sometimes I am trading the morning as early as 6 a.m., sometimes as early as 4 a.m. But this is what I call the pre-market, right? The pre-market. It's really early, so about 8:30. And then we're just simply talking about the pre-market. And I'm still using the same strategies, but when we get to 9:30, this is really a brand new, I don't care what was happening here. It's a brand new day. Now today, at 7:30, this sell-off here, that was an Iran geopolitical sell-off. So we inherited a certain amount of weakness going into the open at 9:30 Eastern. So the open is its own psychology, and the open to 10 o'clock, again, it's its own little setup, meaning that there's a psychology that exists in this 30-minute high-low range that gets established here that can give us our clearing range setup, which I've talked about before, and we did this in the chat room live. But I also, again, want to mention how important time is here. One of the things traders omit from their strategy is a respect for time. And I love that in the chat room, you know, Neil, who typically takes us through the open, talks about time quite a bit. And it's almost as important as price to me in my day trading. After 10:30, the clearing range psychology starts to fade, and I'm going to look at the underlying market trend. At 11:30, I know the European markets close and the U.S. markets go into their lunchtime doldrums. And I'm going to start to wind things down between 11:30 and 11:40. And then I will do nothing between 11:30 and 1:30. And then I'll come back for what is oftentimes an interesting 12:30 Central, 1:30 bid. And then in the premium video, my members, I talk about how we traded those two pullbacks and how we ended up long going into the 3 to 4 o'clock hours. So in the premium video, check that out. I go into a lot of detail, an absolute in-depth explainer on the price movement range pullback entries here between 2 and 3 o'clock, or between 2 and 3 o'clock. So think about time, gang. And then, of course, 1:30 to 3, and then you have your last hour of the day in here, which, again, has its own psychology. Think about the last hour of the day as a 20, 20, 10, 10 breakdown. Each one of these segments has its own psychology. So think about time. I think it's very important that you think about time. And then once you understand what time is communicating to you, you've got a better idea of what kind of pullbacks and the timing of those pullbacks, how those could actually shape up. And, you know, this is one of the things that I'm going to be talking about during the Futures Freedom Plan class this Saturday, May the 5th, from 12 to 4 Central, from 1 to 5 Eastern. Danielle and I are going to be doing something really that I've never had a chance to do as a futures trader with Simpler Trading, which is go back to what 15, yeah, you heard that right, 15-year-old Raghee did. What did I do in the formative 3 to 5 years of my very early trading career that set me up for success? I'm going to be 47 years old this year. So there's a reason, and I think that was really going back, and with Danielle, I've sort of reversed engineered what it is that I did for those 3 to 4, 5 years. How did I build the foundation of my futures trading? What were those things that, you know, I looked at within the basics of futures and emphasized those that then carried me forward? And then what were the 3 setups that I'm still using to this day, and the indicators that, while they've evolved, really still are the same indicators, variations of, that I used even back then. So really taking you from absolutely knowing nothing about futures to making sure you don't have a kitchen sink education, but rather you know specifically what I believe made the difference for me, what's making the difference for Danielle, and how you can build yourself as from the ground up. And maybe you're rebuilding yourself. That's kind of one of my specialties. Not always having the luxury of getting a brand new trader with a blank slate, but how do I take a trader who's had some tough times, who's had some difficulties, and how do I rebuild you up into the trader that I think can take you for the remainder of your trading career? So that'll be this Saturday, And we'll have a Friday Q&A. So if you have some questions for us, you can join us. You'll get some information about that. But I'll tell you what, this is the first time that I'm going to be really building a futures trader from the ground up the way I did myself so many years ago. So can't wait to see you there, and I'll see you in the next update.